If you have any family members that are telling you now that everything's going to be fine because we have a wonderful government, the police, and the military that will help us, well, this video is for them. As in this video, we will be describing all the important news not related to the C word. We're not even going to say the C word because there's a lot of other stuff happening behind the scenes that really deserves its own independent coverage. And me and Tim Pashot will be going into that in this specific video. And I think one of the biggest stories that are happening right now, as of course, the government is not prepared and dragging their feet on a proper response to that C word thing, but they are very busy, especially the Republicans and Democrats that are trying to ram through a bill right now that would essentially get rid of encryption and your privacy. There's a new act that Republicans, Democrats, the Attorney General of the United States are pushing right now, and it is called the Earn It Act. And of course, it is an act that the government and politicians are telling us is going to help protect children. This is going to help all the little children out there. And that's not exactly what it's doing. It's a massive power grab. It's a massive move towards total information awareness, surveillance, 1984 Orwell. If it already wasn't here, this pretty much puts the stamp on it, making it so. Now, this bill, again, bipartisan support, U.S. senators just introduced it. It's probably going to be jammed through while everyone's distracted. But again, it's meant to combat children getting hurt online. But really what it does is it puts more responsibility on tech companies for whatever people do on their platform. We saw this already done to a very horrible degree with Ross Ulbricht, and not used against other individuals who are cozy with the government, like Facebook, that essentially provided services that are the same thing. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, look up the Ross Ulbricht story, an incredible story. Man is still in jail for the rest of his life when he shouldn't be there. But this new law gives more responsibility on the tech companies to hold people accountable. Of course, the government calling for more suppression of free speech. This is an important issue that Donald Trump has not been very significant on. He's been very hyperbolic. He's been talking about the importance of free speech, but essentially with the tech companies censoring a lot of his biggest supporters, a lot of anti-establishment people, he's been very silent and dragging his feet on protecting free speech in this country. And now the Attorney General Barr is pushing this law, and another provision of this law would pretty much get rid of strong end-to-end encryption. So major move that, of course, we should all look out for. And again, all in the disguise of helping children. U.S. Attorney General Barr said specifically, with bad people communicating using virtual unbreakable encryption, this bill will, of course, directly address that and make sure that not verbatim exactly, but he's pretty much saying we're going to make sure that there's no privacy online at all. And this is pretty golden because this is happening from the Attorney General William Barr, whose father, who his own previous law company firm that he worked for was connected to, of course, Jeffrey Epstein, which you have more news coming about that in the future. He didn't recuse himself, even though he has direct connections to Jeffrey Epstein, even though he is the one supposedly investigating this international child trafficking operation that abused thousands of children with the aid and help of government, local law enforcement, and of course, many high-level politicians that, of course, he's also dragging his feet on and not providing any accountability. So on that end, no, I don't trust the government when they say they're going to come here, help the children, because they're definitely not. And that's not even the worst story this week, Tim. You got another one that's also just mind-boggling, especially when it comes to, the police.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. And this is one that, an area that I focus, a lot on. Probably should focus more on it. But here we have lawyer, man killed by officer was asleep when police fired. And so the man was Duncan Lemp. And here we go. A Maryland man who was shot and killed by a police officer was asleep in his bedroom when police opened fire from outside his house, an attorney for the 21-year-old man's family said on Friday. The man's girlfriend was also wounded. The Montgomery County Police Department said in a news release Friday that Duncan Socrates Lemp confronted police, mind you, he was asleep, and was shot by one of the officers early Thursday. Renee Sadler, an attorney for Lemp's relatives, said an eyewitness gave a completely contrary account of the shooting. She said police would have absolutely no justification for shooting Lemp based on what she has heard about the circumstances. The facts, as I understand them from eyewitnesses, are incredibly concerning, she said. She told the Associated Press. The warrant that the police obtained to search the Potomac home Lemp shared with his parents and 19-year-old brother doesn't mention any imminent threat to law enforcement or the public. Lemp's relatives said in a statement released Friday by their lawyers, nobody in the house that morning had a criminal record. The statement also adds. And so right now what we're seeing is the police are trying to shift responsibility for this to everyone but themselves. And what's also concerning is this is not just a one-off thing. I mean, this has been going on thousands and thousands of times. All these SWAT raids weren't really meant for low-level drug offenders. And as we see on screen right now, New Mexico governor to sheriffs.
Wait, before we get into the whole New Mexico thing, I kind of want to add a little bit more points on what happened with this man, because if the lawyer is saying what he's saying here, and if he's accurate, this is extreme criminal wrongdoing on behalf of the police department that are following these kind of new red flag laws. Now, again, person didn't have a criminal record. He did post some things online. He was a part of the kind of trolling community online. No criminal record. Police show up, and according to his lawyer, he's sleeping there, and then they just start shooting at him. He had a pregnant girlfriend that was also injured. There's a GoFundMe for him, raising money for him. But again, this was a 21-year-old man who was gunned down 4:30 a.m. in the morning by the police officers. And there should be massive accountability here, and all because of things he said online. I mean, all because of maybe some jokes or some trolls. I don't even know the full extent of this, but this is absolutely ridiculous and should be worrying everyone, especially if you're an individual who thinks they're going to be protected and that the government cares about them during this crazy C-word situation. Let's hear
the crazy type of stuff that he was posting online. So on social media accounts that friends said belonged to him, Lemp's username was Young Quant. So that's Y-U-N-G, then Quant, K-U-A-N-T, on an internet forum called My Militia. Someone who identified himself as Duncan Lemp of Potomac and posted under the username Young Quant said he was an active 3%er and looking for local members and recruits. That's an apparent reference to the 3%ers, a wing of the militia movement. The group's logo, the Roman numeral 3, has become popular with anti-government groups, according to the Anti-Defamation League, or ADL. On his Instagram account, Lemp recently posted a photograph. Here we go. This is where we get into the real thought crime here. A photograph that depicts two people holding up rifles and included the term bugaloo, slang used by militia. And I hate to even, this is sort of like gallows humor. Like
again, you're reading propaganda. You're reading propaganda from the ADL. You need to preface this with not just as fact here. Make sure people are aware of that, Tim.
Well, even if it is fact, okay, you're posting that you're part of a 3%er. I mean, I don't get how even that would even be. I mean, they're trying to say, oh, well, no, he's part of this evil 3%er and he's part of these militias. Well, guess what? The Second Amendment in this country was founded on militias. Everything that's going on today is 100% outside of the bounds of basically everything the founders had hoped this country was founded on, and not. It's just, this is really going to start getting me worked up. But, so what? Okay, he was a 3%er and wanted to be part of a militia. The Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia. And so here you've got a guy trying to get a well-regulated militia, and now that makes him a bad guy. And so this is all about, gun demonization, all about, anyone that's a evil right-winger. They need to, be taken care of. And I don't know if and why this is important, and I will give some sheriffs credit where they deserve to get credit, and we do have law enforcement officials, and I mean I hate even calling them that, but we do have police around the country who are standing up to this. They are maybe joining things like the county sheriff's project, or I forgot the other one, Oath Keepers. That's the one. And so when it comes to sheriffs, they really are the strongest people in any given jurisdiction, and it's up to them to actually use that force and not just become tools of the federal government. And right now, the governor of New Mexico is going ahead and saying, New Mexico governor sheriffs, enforce gun laws or resign. And what she's referring to is this is New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham signed a red flag gun bill on Tuesday that will allow state district courts to order the temporary surrender of firearms. And she's basically saying, you know, if you're a sheriff right now and you're not willing to support this, then you guys need to take a hike. And I think it's also important to put it, we have up on screen here, Justice for Duncan Lemp, a GoFundMe. So, you know, there is ways that you guys can help out, at least, you know, his girlfriend, and I'm sure they're going through a very, very tough time right now. But, you know, this is not some one-off thing. I mean, we're showing up on screen. Florida red flag gun law has been used 3,500 times just since Parkland. And Parkland was only like 13 and a half months ago, maybe. And so this is something that's getting way out of hand. In Maryland, this isn't even the first person they've killed over this. We've got a story from November 5th, 2018. Maryland's red flag law turns deadly. Officer kills man who refused to turn in gun. And so for me, I mean, you see, I mean, it's always been the hypocrisy, and I'm, you know, living in Arizona, you know, it's very, big, obviously more like right-wing libertarian, but you also get a lot of people out here who are, you know, Blue Lives Matter. I mean, actually two of my neighbors here have Blue Lives Matters flags, in their garages. But it's the same type of people who are, you know, that don't try to mow on lobby, don't take my guns. And then, you know, they're the same type of people who are then supporting the police. And so for me, it's always been about the police are not always the people who blame police on everything I think are just as guilty as the people that say the police are never wrong. And so for me, you know, this is really just like, you know, a huge issue that people need to talk about. You know, if we don't have the Second Amendment, that's what stops a lot of this tyranny from happening. And that's why it's been a big push all these years to get rid of the Second Amendment. And what better time to help get rid of the Second Amendment than during a crisis? Never let a good crisis go to waste. And what are some other ways that you think that they're going to, you know, bring in further, ways that the government's going to overreach during this, Luke?
Well, right now there's lines around the block around major gun stores all throughout this country. There's some local jurisdictions banning the sale of guns right now. So that's also important to know during this kind of C-word thing. We're not going to go back to the C-word thing, but again, people just need to exercise common sense. When you're meeting a police officer or sheriff or any law enforcement officer, what you're meeting is a total stranger. That stranger could be very nice or very good, but you should treat them like a freaking stranger, because you never know what they're capable of, and they're more capable of course, psychological problems, and because of the severity of their job. Again, there's never a middle ground. There's always they're all bad, they're all horrible, or they're all amazing. No, there's a middle ground. They're strangers. Let's just have some common sense here. But when you look at how the system kind of utilizes them, they usually utilize them in the worst kind of way, which segues into our next story, the Jeffrey Epstein story, which of course is going to get a lot of more eyeballs on it after a new expose is coming out on Netflix, which will include the victim and accuser, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, who will be presenting new information in that docuseries that is soon to come out on Netflix. I want to do a whole special just reviewing what we're going to see, the new information we're going to come out. So as soon as that Netflix special comes out, expect more coverage from it on this channel. Tim, let's make sure we watch it. But the reason I connect these two is because local law enforcement was trying to get justice for Virginia and many other young women, many other children, and they couldn't, and they didn't. Many officers were bought off, many officers were silenced, and the number of victims is absolutely mind-blowing. And to have law enforcement, NYPD, Florida PD, Virgin Island police departments just totally not do their job when it comes to some of the worst human actions on children that could be committed, that is covered up right now by the government that wants to pass laws that get rid of your freedom to allegedly protect children. My butt. That's not coming out at all. And there's even a new revelation coming out with Prince Andrew. Do you want to talk about that one, or anything else you want to say about and anything else happening not related to the C word in this video, Tim?
I mean, I think that opens up its own can of worms, and I think maybe that's something we should do our own video on. But, you know, right now I am taking a look at the Drudge Report, and it says lockdown for 15 days. Next one is Dow down 3,000 points. Fed pumps, living through history. And this is just the beginning, guys. I mean, this is, if you think that the Fed just doing what they're doing right now is, you know, the end game and everything is solved, this is just the beginning. And so I'm speculating that, and this is, you know, stuff that I've been saying for a while, that you see this initial, you know, pump, but then that's not going to be enough. And these programs have to keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And so, there are things that people can do. One of those is using going to my website where you can actually book me, and then we
No
use
C word coverage.
no C word. I wasn't gonna.
Yeah.
Hey, that was about the S word, the stock market. So, or crashing. I guess that's the C word, the crash. But anyways, to me, that's what I'm focusing on is the broader economic stuff. But I know we have another video that's already been released. If this is the first video you've seen of the day, go back, check out our earlier one. You guys can get all the information on the $700 billion QE4 program, along with the Fed cutting rates to zero. But for me, it's been an absolutely historic week last week. I think we're in got a hell of a week coming up this week. And this is only I'm kind of laughing here because it's almost like a gallows humor of, you can only, you can only tell so many people, prepare so much. And then now we're actually here at this endpoint, or what could be the endpoint. And it's just fascinating times. And just, it's exciting, but it's scary too.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of people would characterize this as exciting. Definitely a true test to a lot of individuals about self-reliance, self-preparedness, and being responsible for themselves, which a lot of people are getting a big wake up on. Again, hope you guys are staying safe out there. We're trying to cover all the news that's not related to the C news, just to change it up a little bit. If you think we missed an important story that actually did happen, that actually does matter, that the mainstream media is not talking about, let us know what that story is in the description below. And in future videos, we will be sure to address it. And thank you so much for being a part of this independent media journey with myself, Tim Pachote. He has his website. I have my website. Definitely check us out. Stay tuned for more here on Change the News channel.